What's going on, guys? It's Perna here, and today I'm going to share with you 5 foods that help me stay lean. So I actually am. This is not just a clickbait title with some bro science just meddled throughout. It's actually a mix of science and as well as my own personal preference and kind of explaining things how I understand them and how I see them and how it helps me. So before we actually get into the 5 specific foods that you guys probably came here to see, they're probably not going to shock you, some might, but before we get into that, I want to talk quickly about what this actually means. So in this context, we want to look at foods that enable us to eat in a way advantageous to fat loss. That is literally all it is. So when we look at your adherence to a diet, or we're looking at things and taking all these things into account, like your hunger levels, how full you are, how much you want food, how much you're actually going to resist temptation or avoid it in the first place. So there's a lot of, nuance that comes into play with diet. That's why it's so personalized to the individual and how your brain works. It's not just a one size fits all, because anybody can eat absolutely nothing for a long period of time and get absolutely shredded. But then can they do that repeatedly? Can they maintain that? Is it consistent? It's always no. So the problem, there's going to be a lot of people watching now thinking,
well, you can eat anything and that doesn't matter.
So the problem with that is that yes, you can eat anything and lose weight, but there's certain foods that are good or bad for you in the sense of your adherence to a fat loss diet and your ability to actually maintain that. For example, if you want to eat little bits of donuts every day and little bits of lollies every day, that's perfectly fine. If you're in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight, that's great. But if those foods actually trigger you to eat more and worse foods and they keep you thinking about food all the time and you're not satiated and you're constantly craving things, those foods are not good for you. They're not good for your diet because they're not enabling you to eat in a way advantageous to fat loss. They're making you constantly play mental games, crave foods, and then have to use discipline and weird motivational mind trickery. What we want is foods that enable you to go, this is actually easy. Dieting is easy, fat loss is easy. These are the foods that will help you stay lean. So before we get into the actual foods, guys, and I'll explain them as we go, I do want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, and that is Cuts. Guys, the best minimalist tees and full clothing in the game. If you haven't got any, I highly recommend you get some. I'll show you a bit of close-up B-roll of the actual quality of these garments because they're insane. And I actually have a 20% off discount code only for the next week. So if you guys are watching this and it's before the 20th of October, you guys can get 20% off. So using the link below or using the code Perna at the checkout will give you your discount. So guys, honestly, couldn't recommend the clothes highly enough. It's ridiculous. You can wear them to any event, you can wear them on the couch like I am now with some chill pants and slippers, or you can wear them to a funeral. It's probably a horrible example, but they're not gonna kick you out of a funeral. Anyway, we're gonna get into the first food that helps me stay lean. A couple of things with red meat. One, high protein. It has good fats in it as well. If it's grass-fed, the fats are going to be way better for you. More omega-3s in there. So one thing I do like about steak, it has such a high nutritional value that it basically will help signal your body's satiety cues and hunger. So if I have steak every day, I'm much less hungry as opposed to just having chicken. A few different cuts of steak. Now, like I said, if you can afford it and your budget allows it, go grass-fed where you can. A few different cuts I usually go for. If you want a leaner cut, by all means, go like an eye fillet. Even though this one has a little bit of marbling, that's my favorite usually, because it has a little bit of fat through the muscle there, so that's just yum and tender. But I also will enjoy a good porterhouse. Some of them are just rough and tough. It's annoying, but if you get a good cut, porterhouse is great too. A little bit more fat on here.
So protein itself is pretty key for fat loss diets, considering its thermic effect is around 30%. So this means that your body uses 30% of the calories from the protein just to digest it. So compare this to carbs around 10% and fats are next to 0%. This is why high protein diets yield fat loss results just for most people without even tracking.
If you're cooking steak, salt it at least 30 minutes in advance if you can. Otherwise, like I'm about to do now, 1 minute, which is okay. I always put a little bit extra salt on as well. And then very quickly, sear it on either like a pan on really high or on the barbie outside with 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, and then done. So the second thing I eat every day is greens. Now, there are pretty much 2 main elements to satiety and staying full. One of them is that kind of chemical signaling from your body that comes from the amino acids from protein and the fatty acids from fats, which is why I like steak as a first meal. If you guys want to know more about that, check out Andrew Huberman's podcast on satiety and appetite, I think. It goes into a lot of detail on actually the mechanisms of that, but pretty much that's why I like the steak, and we'll get to another one along the similar lines. And secondly, the mechanical level of fullness, which is literally your guts stretching and you feeling physically full, which is usually most people's first point of fullness, is that physical feeling of fullness. So that's why I like greens for that, very simply. Just something to fill your guts and actually feel like you've had a substantial meal. So greens, the reason why, very low in calories compared to their volume, and I just add them. I don't track them whatsoever because to me it seems pointless. I'll just eat greens until I'm pretty much full with every meal. Lately, I've been enjoying snow peas, green beans, especially sugar snaps, I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do with these today. One of the most recent favorite recipes, just olive oil. We're just gonna saute them in the pan on high heat. Add a little bit of chopped mint leaves, a little bit of chili, and a little bit of lemon zest, and that's done. Now this next food is not really a food, it's more of a food group, I think. It's ice cream. But this is more of a symbol for the larger meaning, which is any food that will make you adhere to your diet more. So I keep banging on about this because that's really what's important. So this is my protein ice cream that I pretty much, when I'm in a dieting phase, or at least trying to stay lean, I tend to have this quite a lot. It might not be every day, but it's a lot. With this, if you want to just quickly know how to make it, if you're regular viewers of my channel, you've probably seen this a million times. But otherwise, if you're new here, what are you looking at me like that for? It's fucking ice cream, innit? No. If you're new here, welcome. And here's how you make it. You just get 200 grams of frozen berries, and we're gonna blend that with 1 scoop of EHP Labs Oxywhey. The vanilla Oxywhey tastes amazing. It is by far the nicest protein I've ever had. If you guys want a discount, you can use the code ZAC10 as well. Then around 40 to 50 ml of almond milk. Blend that, and then top it with whatever you like. I've done coconut and blueberries. And this, just having something sweet, especially to look forward to at the end of the day. For me, I'm like I get a bit peckish after dinner, like I just want something sweet. So for me, this keeps me accountable. I'm not gonna overeat on sweets throughout the day if I know I'm having this. So something like this, I realized for me, it was just a game changer. It easily made me stick to my diet. So for you, this might be something sweet, having something a little bit, maybe not so macronutrient dense. It might be something that's just calorie dense, a little bit of butter when you're cooking, little things like that. Identify which things will help you stick to your diet more and put them in there. Try it, see how you go, see how you feel. But I mean, definitely try this ice cream. I think you guys will like it. So this is my next one, low carb potatoes. Unfortunately, I don't think these grow outside Australia. So if you guys are watching this disappointed, I'm sorry, but they pretty much have the same macros as pumpkin. So these are 9% carbs. Let me show you a little demonstration here. This is 250 grams of rice. This is 750 grams of low carb potatoes. Same carb content. So when you think about it, which one's gonna keep you fuller? In fact, that's an absolute shitload of potatoes. So if you don't have this, like I said, use pumpkin or even regular potatoes, not too bad. So if you don't have any sensitivities to the nightshade families like potatoes, go nuts, try it out. Potatoes are literally, I think they were voted the #1 most satiating food, but that was when they were eaten by themselves. So I think with like nothing else, if you eat a potato by itself, you're like, when will this end? So really, that's why I like these. I don't get any gut sensitivities or anything like that with them, but it also depends on how you cook it, because if you were to just air fry these, in which case I would parboil them first, then air fry them with a little bit of oil. If you were to do that, they will obviously shrink and their weight will decrease. So it will be 750 grams. They'll probably go down to like half of that, in which you'd be like, okay, that's 350 grams compared with 250. It's not too different. But if you were to boil them and either mash it or then just quickly like put them in a pan with a bit of butter, that's what I used to do, it will hold its weight. So it's still very high volume and it will hit the spot and still taste like you're eating regular potatoes. You actually can't taste the difference. It's pretty insane. And just while we're on this as well, this is not the same as having just 70 grams of pure sugar. So that's the difference in. Another thing I wanted to say is that people will say, okay, so you're basically saying you can eat whatever you want as long as you stick to your diet. And yes, but also I'm also alluding to the actual mechanisms at play of if you were to eat 70 grams of sugar, what does that look like on the effects on your behavior and your body as opposed to 70 grams of starchy carbs like potatoes or rice or something like that. So if you were to eat just 70 grams of sugar and you say, it helps me stick to my diet, blah, 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 your energy should be pretty miserable, as well as your hunger signals should be way off. You'll be hungry a lot earlier. So it's like, yes, there are things that mentally will keep you on track, but there is a line, there's like dose dependent things too. If you have too much sugar, your hunger signals will be horrible. You'll be feeling peckish and snackish and really low on energy, as opposed to eating good, clean food and unprocessed food for the majority of your intake. So something to be mindful of as well. So back to what I was saying before about having something that helps you stay on your diet, that's one thing, but another thing as well is not having the things that will make you hungrier. Most of them just being sugars. So if you pretty much stay away from sugars as much as you can, or at least higher amounts of them, then you'll be on track to eating intuitively and staying lean. Now, the final food. Pork chop. Salmon. So, pretty much the same as the first point with steak. Salmon is great for the omega-3s. The high fat content, high protein content will help keep you fuller for longer. But I genuinely just have this every day because I feel like people can't get enough omega-3s in their diet. It's very difficult to, unless you supplement with omegas. So for me, I like to keep salmon in there. Now, I've been through dieting phases in the past. Like I said, salmon and bear walks in. Just Absolute favorite. I've been through dieting phases in the past where all I ate was literally only lean sources of protein, like chicken breast or turkey breast or even kangaroo. Yeah, we eat kangaroo in Australia sometimes. And I got the results, but I felt unhealthy. Like I felt genuinely weird and unhealthy, like I wasn't nourishing my body with micronutrients, or my brain for that matter. Like it's one thing about your body, but also your brain. So then when I actually switched to having higher fatty contents like this, it doesn't make that much of a big difference. If you're having an extra 200 calories, if that, from salmon as opposed to a chicken breast, the benefits you're getting versus just that like 100 extra calories or whatever that is, or 200 extra calories, in my mind, it doesn't make a difference especially for long term. You have to think like of the bigger picture here. So I'll feel better and fuller for longer, and also just that fatty taste too. For me, it does that like way more than just a chicken breast would. So I tend to keep salmon in there for that reason, as well as just for increasing the sustainability of your diet. Because like I said, if you're eating things that you can't see yourself eating for a long period of time, whether that's chicken breast or egg whites or things that you just think are not really that healthy, don't start with it. May as well start with something like salmon and steak. You can happily leave in there and then play around and taper with your carbs. Like get your essential fats in there. Like there are no real essential carbs. You'll get them in there. But play around with your fat intake as well as keeping a high protein, and then you can pretty much titrate your carbs however you like, depending on your activity level and your personal preference. Now, if you would like me to do all this for you and you want to sign up to one of my coaching plans, just hit the link below and suss it out. You definitely don't have to, but if you do want the help, it is there. So pretty much to sum this video up, I'm just going to get the salmon out of my face. To sum this video up, I want you guys to be eating unprocessed, nutrient-dense, high-quality foods for most of the time. If you need to have something every now and then that's a little bit of junk or whatever, that's okay. But I want you to be aware that some foods are definitely more nutrient-dense than others, like steak, like salmon. Some foods will keep you fuller for longer and actually cause you to not want to eat terrible foods, like those, steak and salmon. Like they're the foods that will actually help you make better decisions. Then there are other foods that will make you crave certain things and make you feel restless and starving even when you're not, like a lot of sugars. So there is a bit of a line between better and worse foods. I'm not going to say good and bad, because if you eat too much of anything, it's going to be pretty shit for you. But there are definitely better and worse foods. So with that said, I'm going to leave it at that. They are the foods that I pretty much eat every day, or try to when in a dieting phase, or at least staying lean. In my mind, they're pretty much synonymous. So if you like this video or took something out of it, just leave a comment below. You can comment anything if you like, literally the word is fine, and that's it from me. You guys know what to do. Stay massive. Slide into your DMs in the PM and the AM, then I slide into your feelings when you see just what I'm saying.